The Thoroughbred is a magnificent animal, bred for speed, bred to compete, the sport of kings.
Wow, West Coast has it by 6.
It's the all-new LetsGoRacingParks.com. Take a ride into this kind of action.
3 of them are right together with 1 furlong to go.
LetsGoRacingParks.com is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association. It's fun to see them run.
A very pleasant good morning, racing fans, and welcome here to Parks Racing for Let's Go Racing. On the program today, a little update on Maximus Mischief, who worked again as he gets set for his first big test up in New York in the Remsen Stakes. We'll talk about that here at the top of the show. On the racetrack, our local feature this week, an optional clamber at a mile and 70 yards that wasn't decided until the final strides. Our national coverage will take us to Churchill Downs for the Grade 3 River City and some 2-year-olds on the West Coast at the Grade 3 Bob Hope. And we'll also spend some time with jockey Tony Black as we talk about the recently departed Hall of Fame trainer Walter Reese. We'll talk to Tony here in just a little bit. Hi, everybody. Keith Jones down on the beautiful first floor here at Parks Racing, and my friend Mike Bozich sitting in for the vacationing Dick Girardi. And Mike, thank you for coming out and joining us today. We didn't get a chance when I was on with you before to really introduce you properly. And the people that don't know, you're the regular race caller down at Harris Chester.
That's right. It's a beautiful racetrack, and it's pacers and trotters.
There you go.
As opposed to thoroughbreds, but I love both breeds. Both breeds, I think, are outstanding.
Well, you had an opportunity a couple of weeks ago to sit in for the vacationing Keith Jones.
Who?
This 2-year-old Maximus Mischief. You had a chance to call Maximus in his second career start, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But he just worked again, 6 furlongs. This time he went 112 flat. He's just so smooth. He looks so good. You texted me, and just when you saw him, he just stands out.
Well, you know, you could look at the past performances, but I'll tell you what, always watch what your eyes tell you to see. You know what I mean? That's what handicappers always say. And he was so visually impressive on the racetrack. He was so visually impressive on the post parade. He has such a presence about him, and I don't want to start to make the comparisons to justify yet, but I'll tell you what, he commands that kind of presence, at least early on in his career.
Well, his first big test coming up at the Remsen Stakes, Vacoma, who out of the George Weaver barn won the Nashua Stakes in big form, is going to be, looks like he's going to go in honor code out of the Shug McGahee barn, who missed the Breeders' Cup because of fever. He's going to be back, so this will be his first big test. Not only is he going to be asked to go against 2 turns, but he's probably going to get a little resistance this time.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a big test. So much raw ability and talent. It's going to be unbelievable to see how he's going to fare against, you know, this, what is going to be a test.
So we're looking forward to it.
It will be a test.
Let's get to our local race of the week. It's an optional clamber at a mile and 70 yards, and second level allowance condition, or a claiming price of $25,000. The fillies and mares, we have the big favorite here, number 5, Rose Tree, 4-5 for trainer Jonathan Shepard. Lightly raced. She's only been out 3 times this year, but 2 of those victories were stakes wins.
Yeah, certainly. And if you watch this race, Keith, you're going to run into trouble a few times in this race. And there's another horse that I want to mention that, you know, this is a horse that's going to fly under the lines in the past performances, and it's a horse by the name of Modacious, who had some problems at the start. Didn't necessarily run off or break through the gate, but nearly did, and, you know, starters had to reset him and everything. So, and this horse, you know, I think could be one looking forward, but watch the race here and see. It was a really big effort.
3-1, the second choice here on Modacious, but let's go out and get a call of our local feature this week. Would it be the favorite? Would it be an upset? Here's the call. So they're on the back stretch, just less than 5.5 furlongs to go. Singing Sarah, uncontested length and a half lead. Rose Tree going to force the issue early. Rose Tree moves up on the inside, but Andrew Wolfson quickly jams on the brakes there and tries to gather Rose Tree back just a bit. Modacious on the outside. So Rose Tree a bit rank there with just less than a half mile to go. 48-2 for the half. Singing Sarah 3/4 of a length. Modacious on the outside is edge closer second. Rose Tree is 2 lengths back while saving ground. Taylor Promise beginning to launch a bit on the far outside for the back of the pack. They're midway on the final turn. Singing Sarah, Modacious, they've been 1-2 the whole way. Taylor Promise up into contention with a bit on the far outside. Nowhere to go right now for Rose Tree. Awesome Singer in with a chance between horses. So the field turns for home. Here comes Modacious. The rail opens up for Rose Tree. She comes charging on through. And Awesome Singer putting in a strong run on the outside. Bodacious has the lead. Rose Tree is on the inside. On the outside, it's Awesome Singer. Bodacious holding on. Awesome Singer, late surge. Bodacious, Awesome Singer. They're head for the lead. On the outside, it's Awesome Singer. Yes! Well, Awesome Singer, who is 8-1 and a first time out after a $16,000 claim by trainer Jamie Ness, runs a big one here at 8-1. And what a performance here by Awesome Singer. And first time off the claim for a very sharp trainer.
Yeah, certainly sustained that bid, but like I say, I think Bodacious did a lot of the heavy lifting there. So we're going to want to watch this horse going forward. What did the start take out of that horse?
Right.
That's what you're going to have to ask yourself, and that's something that could fly under the radar when this horse's next start. It's just going to fly under the PPs, and I don't think a lot of handicappers are going to see it.
Put them in my little book. You got it. Well, we have our Ask the President segment here. Before we head to our first break, of course, Ask the President, Pat Shiraki, one of the local broadcasters here with Sal DeBunda, and here's our Ask the President segment this week.
Right at the heart of the association really are the people who are part of the industry. Who are they? What do they do?
We basically make sure in our PTHA staff that we service all the needs. We provide identification for horses, healthcare, turning for home program, which we'll talk about, pensions. We also make sure that the licenses are appropriate, and we do everything we can to help to basically, this is our village, and we're kind of like the mayor's office of that village, and we do everything we can to take care of them.
So let's talk specifically, though, Sal, about the types of jobs that are actually here. Because the PTHA doesn't just work with the horse owners and the trainers. There are so many other people who are part of the industry that keeps a place like this alive.
Personally, I need 24/7 care, which means that they need hot walkers, they need grooms, they need exercise riders, they need feed, they need shavings for the stalls, they need horseshoes done, they have chiropractors, they have dentists, they have accountants, luckily they also have lawyers that do this. There's all sorts of van drivers, all sorts of activities generate around this horse. I like to refer to it as a factory that generates jobs.
Of course, thanks to Sal and Pat. It's time to enter our first break. We come back, we're going to talk to Tony Black about Walter Reese. Don't miss that. We'll be right back after this.
Looking to join the thrill and excitement of thoroughbred racehorse ownership? Pewter Stable can get you started. With more than 25 years of experience under the leadership of Greg and Kate DeMasi, Pewter Stable is one of the industry's leaders in racing partnerships, winning hundreds of races and millions of dollars at racetracks all over the Mid-Atlantic, including New York. No markup, no management fees makes our partnerships unique and affordable. We are Pewter Stable.
Welcome back, everyone, to Parks Racing for Let's Go Racing. Time for our feature segment today. And as we mentioned in the opening, the passing of Hall of Fame trainer Walter Reese, and a gentleman who certainly was very close to Walter, and that's Tony Black. And Tony, thank you for coming onto the show and talking to us about Walter. You knew him very well, very close. Tell us about Walter Reese, the man.
Well, Walter Reese, the man, was, like you say, very close to me. He wasn't just a client or someone I rode for many, many years. He was a second father to me. You know, he has 5 other children, Judy, Sharon, Timmy, Jennifer, and Alex, his stepson, and me. But Walter, what really stood out in my mind, and I was so glad I got to see him before he passed, and Cynthia's such a wonderful person. She brought him home to the farm before he passed. Right. But when I went to the hospital to see him, he knew I was there, because I always would give him a yell in his ear and say, "Walter, it's me, I'm here at the barn." Well, I was here at the hospital, and I gave him a kiss on his cheek, and he acknowledged it in a way that he could. But when in 1990, what really stands out in my mind, in 1990, when I got sober for the first time, you know, and I had some bad years of experience of not being dependable and not being the rider I should have been. I went to 2 people when I came back in January, February of 91. I said, "Listen, Walter," and the other person was Bob Kamak. I said, I'm serious. I want to get started back in the business. I really need some help. And both of them had the same response. Walter, they said, "Just come to the barn, get on some horses. We'll find something for you right away." And never listen to the naysayers. You know, he always stood by me. He never listened to the people that says, "What are you riding him for? He'll be messing up in no time at all." never listened to that. He was a loyal customer, but like I said, more than a customer, a second father.
Tony, he won 6 training titles here during his time, one of the great trainers, one of the great horsemen here at the racetrack. Back in the earlier days before I got here, I did have some time while he was here, but what made him such a good horseman?
Well, I'll tell you what, Walter always had the philosophy, you know, he would look at him, few things he taught me. He would always say, you know what, Tone, conformation, if they could run, conformation doesn't stop them from running. So he would look at a horse in that respect.
Tony, let's talk about the 1996 Pennsylvania Derby with Devil's Honor. And of course, Mike Smith with the horse Formal Gold, that was a heavy favorite. But of course, you were able to get the job done with Devil's Honor. What did that mean to you to win that race for Walter?
Well, it meant so much because we took Devil's Honor the year before and won the Cradle Stakes. We knew he was, you know, a distance horse. And that day that we ran Devil's Honor here, Walter took another horse to River Downs, to Just a Cat, to run in the Cradle Stakes. So he wasn't here that day. And Cynthia saddled the horse, and Cynthia, I think, was down as trainer that day. And Cynthia and Walter was a great combination. You know, they balanced each other out. But it was so rewarding to win that race. And, you know, Mike Smith was here for a few derbies. And a couple derbies ago, he was talking about it to the kids in the jocks room. And he had the kids cracking up. He said, here I was, I'm on Formal Gold, the favorite in the race. He says, and Black did to me what I'm used to doing to riders. So went around him, coming around the turn. He carried me out a little bit, dropped back into the fence. Looked like I was going to get past him, and he held me off, opened up on me. He says, I'm used to doing that, not used to having that done to me. But, you know, I also got to give some credit. I watched what Roy Smith did with the track that day. You know, and let's be honest, it's important to know what the track bias might be for a race. And I called Roy earlier that day. I says, Roy, it looked like he graded the track out. I says, fence looks like it might be okay today. He says, it's golden, Black, it's golden. So we didn't get too far off of the fence. So we had a little edge there, but Devil's Honor was really a nice horse. In fact, he was our horse that we were going to run in the Kentucky Derby. We finished third in the Oklahoma Derby, won the prep to it, but he got hurt in the Oklahoma Derby. So we didn't run him in the Kentucky Derby.
Let's move to one other topic. Horse of the Year. Dick and I like to bat this around. You got Justify, who won the Triple Crown this year, and you got Accelerate, who has a heck of a resume under his belt. How do you see it?
Well, you know, I'm old school. Don't want to tell you my age, you know, but I started riding in 70. Galloped my first horse in 67. But I'm old school, and I'm leaning towards the horse that wins the 3 premier classic races in the world. You know, Derby, Preakness, Belmont means so much. And I know Breeders' Cup is such an important day in racing, but it came well after the Derby history of the Derby. So I'm Justify fan.
Well, Tony, thank you for, again, spending some time with us and talking about really one of the great trainers that we've had a chance to cross paths with here at Parks, Walter Reese. We're saddened at his passing, but of course we celebrate his life, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, I hope you're listening, Walt, because you know I love you, and I give you a big kiss every time you left me.
Well, Tony, again, thanks very much. Let's get to our national coverage. The national coverage, of course, brought to you by Chapman Auto Group. Unless our emblem is on the back of your car or truck, you probably paid too much. And Mike, our national coverage, we're going to start down at Churchill Downs with the Grade 3 River City over Yielding Turf Course. 1 mile and 1/8 the distance, $100,000 purse. And number 3, Mr. Misunderstood, gets bet down to 3-5 for trader Brad Coxon. He is 3 for 3 at Churchill Downs course, including a Grade 2 win in the Wise Dan earlier this year.
Well, Brad Cox has had such a wonderful year. As a matter of fact, going into this race, he's only 2 wins away from that 1,000 career win milestone mark, which he did get a little bit later on. But nonetheless, what a great year for Brad Cox, and a nice-looking horse here.
3-5, Mr. Misunderstood. He also saddles the second choice. Have a little Brad Cox 1-2 here. It's number 5, Big Changes, who goes off at 5-2. And what a sensational year he's having. 5 consecutive wins on the grass. Hasn't raced at this level yet, but those 5 wins, Mike, were at 5 different courses.
That's amazing. That is unbelievable. And you consider the dynamics of 5 different race courses, 5 different surfaces. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yep. Well, let's go out to Churchill Downs and take a look at the Grade 3 River City. Here's the call.
And Big Changes is cruising to the backstretch run. Leads by 2. Sir Dudley Diggs on the outside of Mr. Misunderstood. They're still second and third together. Team Colors coasting along in 4th, 3 lengths off the lead. Another 3 back to Flatlined, who's 6 lengths behind Big Changes, who moves up the backstretch. 52 and 2 is the half. There's 4 furlongs to go. Big Changes and Julien Leparoux onto the far turn in control. Sir Dudley Diggs on the outside. Mr. Misunderstood third and getting closer toward the hedge. Team Colors is asked to pick it up just a bit, angling outside for the final 2.5 furlongs. Flatline is starting to catch up. Still with ground to make up, though, and Big Changes to catch. Big Changes rolls by the quarter pole, 2.5 lengths clear. Mr. Misunderstood pops outside for the stretch drive and is coming with a bid now. 3/16 to go. Brad Cox 1-2. It's Big Changes down inside. Mr. Misunderstood outside. Mr. Misunderstood is up for the lead at the 8th pole. Big Changes battles on, but is second with 100 yards to go. Mr. Misunderstood, Big Changes. It'll be that way under the wire.
Well, it's Brad Cox 1-2 most of the way around the turf course here, and when you're the 3-5 favorite, it also helps when you get the best trip. Mr. Misunderstood gets a chance to sit just in behind the lead and then comes out. Big Changes did hold tough, but ended up losing by a half length to Mr. Misunderstood, paid $3.40 to win. And as you said, Brad Cox inching 1 win closer to that 1,000 win milestone.
Yeah, with that win. And, you know, like we were just talking about off the air, I love to look at jockey and trainer quotes afterwards.
Right.
Florent Giroux, the jockey, said this horse has a pretty good decisive turn of foot. It's, I love to see that because, like you say, when you get into different courses, that's very, very important to be versatile. And trainer Brad Cox, he said he thought about taking a break after the Shadwell, but this horse came, that 6th place finish, came out very, very well from that race, so they took a shot here, and it worked out well for him. And also, Brad Cox says if this horse does keep improving, that Breeders' Crown 2019, or Breeders' Cup 2019, excuse me,
yeah,
not
the
Trotters,
yeah.
Breeders' Cup 2019 is not out of the question.
And Mr. Misunderstood able to handle that yielding course. Yes. They went 1 mile and 1/8 and almost 156 flat, so that tells you how soft it was, but he got it done for Brad Cox. Let's get out west now. We'll head to Del Mar for some 2-year-olds in the Grade 3 Bob Hope. And the distance here, 7 furlongs, $100,000 person. What a shock that the favorite is saddled by some guy named Bob Baffert. Number 4, Mucho Gusto, goes off at 4-5. A son of that Mucho Macho Man. 1 start under his belt, and he ran big in his debut at Los Alamitos.
Yeah, he certainly did. But, you know, one quick thing about the Grade 3 Bob Hope, and of course, Bob Hope was a great horse racing fan and obviously a great comedian. But this used to be the Hollywood Preview Stakes. It was run at Hollywood Park, and one of my favorite horses back in 1994 won this race by the name of Afternoon Delights. And why is he one of my favorite horses? No, it's not because he finished 8th in the Derby, but it was because he was bred, raised, and owned by one of my favorite music composers, Burt Bacharach.
Wow.
How about that?
Interesting little tidbit. Second choice here, number 6, Sparkyville.
Had to go deep for that one,
It's
Keith.
5-2 for trainer Jeff Bond. He's already making his 6th start here as a 2-year-old. He was a distant second in the Grade 2 Best Pal a couple of months ago.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of starts for a 2-year-old. Let's see how he does.
Hey, Bob Hope, 7 furlongs. Bob Baffert with the favorite. Here's the call.
Mucho Gusto sprinting away quick up front, opens up to lead 3 parts of a length to Savagery. Sparkyville is in the 3rd spot, owning as the grey, and Extra Hope at the rail. 3 lengths would cover the entire field. Less than a half mile to run now. The favourite Mucho Gusto in front by 1 length. Savagery's in second. Sparkyville on the far side. Extra Hope at the rail, only 2.5 off the leader, and owning is now the trailer. They come past the 3/8 pole, and Mucho Gusto been taken on by Savagery, and on the far side Sparkyville. 3 of them turn for Hope together. Extra Hope back in 4th. At the top of the lane, Mucho Gusto down at the rails. Savagery between them. Sparkyville on the outside. These 3 noses apart. Extra Hope in with a shot from 4th. Homeward bound now. On the inside, Mucho Gusto. Sparkyville on the outside. Savagery. None of them will give an inch. Mucho Gusto now takes the advantage. Mucho Gusto, Sparkyville. Mucho Gusto fully extended, but comes home gamely to win the Bob Hope.
Well, this turned into a heck of a horse race. Mucho Gusto gets to the front. And they gave him some little tussle there at the top of the stretch, but he dug in. He was not to be denied. Ended up edging away to win by a length and a half. $3.60 the win price. And Joe Talamo aboard for Bob Baffert. And it was the first stakes winner for Mucho Macho Man as a sire. So congratulations to those connections. This was a $625,000 purchase. The Fasig Tipton Mid-Atlantic 2-year-old in training sale. And, you know, once again, we were talking about this off the air about quotes. Joe Talamo, the jockey, said this horse ran well within himself, and I love when jockeys say that, especially with horses that, you know, are finding their way. And I think this horse will be one to watch. Yeah, 7 furlongs. We're probably going to see him go long next time out, but the Grade 3 winner in the Bob Hope. Let's go up to New York and take a look at the Red Smith. And just as we had last week in the R.D. Schiller, unfortunately, the Aqueduct Turf course not good enough to be able to get on the course, so we end up back on the main track. It's a mile and 3/8 with a purse of $200,000. And when I looked at this, I thought it was interesting. Number 15, Exulting, who was, again, a main track only, an MTO, did the same thing in the R.D. Schiller and comes right back in a week, and they're going to bet him to 2-1. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, look, listen, when you're taking them off the turf, you got to look for those main track only entrance horses. And once again, they performed well here. Back in a week. The second choice, number 4, Control Group, was also 2-1. Trader Rudy Rodriguez sending this one out. As you look at his PPs, if he's able to get to the front, it can be tough. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, he's kind of one-paced, but, you know, like I say, he is off the turf, and that certainly will help him. Let's see what happens. This turned into a heck of a stretch run. Let's take a look at the call of the Red Smith on the main track.
Exulting takes command, opens up a length. Control Group is down at the rail. Village King between horses and Solio outside of that pair, the opening quarter in 25-1. Then comes Red Knight, who's racing 3/4 in front of Galop Americano. 8 lengths covers the field, straightening away for the long run down the backstretch, and it's Exulting showing the way 3/4 of a length. Control Group cuts right back into that margin down on the inside. Solio in the clear while wide, and Village King is just inside of him. 3 more lengths back to Red Knight, who's 5 off the pace, and another 5 to Galop Americano. 50-2 for the half. They're coming to the half-mile pole. It's Control Group on even terms with Exulting. Solio is third on the outside. Village King keeping pace at the rail has 3 lengths to make up. Red Knight is next. It's now a long way to Galop Americano. Exulting and Control Group, the 2 favorites. Village King just behind them's had a nice trip. Solio is now worked upon on the outside with the red blinkers. 2 more back to Red Knight as the field turns for home. Control Group on the inside of Exulting. Control Group just in front. Exulting is ahead back second. Just behind them, Village King dives down toward the rail. On the extreme outside, Red Knight. Solio is also in with a chance. Solio, red blinkers on the outside, and Village King. These 2 going on with it as Control Group and Exulting are softened up. It's Village King just in front here. Solio, Village King, Solio in a thriller photo finish. Well, Mike, Exulting and Control Group did the heavy lifting here. And on the inside, here comes number 2, Village King. On the outside, number 5, Solio. Those 2 run past the top 2, and they are bobbing heads coming down to the finish. And the photo goes to number 2, Village King on the inside, 9-2, $11.80 to win. Winning it by a nose, and who else but Todd Pletcher. Yeah, and this was a great ride by Javier Castellano. I mean, just kind of set off the pace, and like you said, let those 2 horses do the heavy lifting. But, you know, this isn't a bad horse. I mean, this horse was a Group 1 winner in South America, and Todd Pletcher was kind of high on this horse. You know, he said he did race well in the dirt, on the dirt, down in South America. So decided to give him a chance here, and paid off. There you go. Well, let's get to our next break. We come back here on Let's Go Racing. We have our Jockey and Trainer of the Week and a new special feature from our friends at Turning for Home. On that, we come back after this.
Racehorses are pampered,
treated with care, and loved.
Nothing is more important than their health and their safety.
We do right by them,
and they do right by us.
The hard-working folks
who proudly earn our living
in Pennsylvania's horse racing
and breeding industries.
Horse racing is a lot of fun.
But it's so much more.
It provides tens of thousands of jobs.
Jobs. And billions in economic impact each year.
All across the Commonwealth.
Horse racing in Pennsylvania. It's a winner.
Welcome back, everyone, to Parks Racing for Let's Go Racing, and we have a new feature this week, and it's our Turning for Home Horse of the Week. And of course, it's brought to you by Turning for Home. The good folks at Turning for Home log on to their website at turningforhome.org. And our horse of the week for Turning for Home is Change of Seasons, a 7-year-old who had 40 career starts. And in those 40 starts, he put up a pretty impressive record: 5 wins, 6 seconds, 5/3 earnings, almost $200,000. Chooks, as he's now known, is as sweet as they come, completed his rehab, ready to go to his forever home. And Chooks would be a great Western pleasure or trail prospect. And of course, it's brought to you by Turning for Home, and Turning for Home also with our jockey and trader of the week. Our jockey of the week this week, it's Roberto Rosado, who had the riding triple over the weekend. And how about trader Marty Woodhouse? Marty, a smaller outfit, doesn't get to the winner's circle as often as I'm sure he would like, but he had 3 wins on a weekend program, and Marty Woodhouse was pumped up in the winner's circle. We give him our congratulations. Marty Woodhouse is our trader of the week. Mike, we have just a little bit of a shortened version of race recap. Let's go back up to Aqueduct for part of their New York Stallion Series Stakes. This is the Thunder Rumble Stakes, 7 furlongs for $125,000. Number 7, Gold for the King. Heavily favored here at 2 to 5 for trader Charlton Baker. And Dick and I love these horses that are well managed. They put him in the right spot. He's won almost $600,000, and he's got to dominate here.
Yeah, and he was looking for his second straight Thunder Rumble, and you know, the Baker trainee, I mean, it was pretty obvious by looking at the past performances before the race that he was easily the best horse. So if you're wagering underneath.
Well, $600,000. I think there's a lot of owners that would like to get $600,000 with their horse Gold for the King in the New York Stallion Series Stakes. Well, eye on racing, and we have a pretty good weekend this upcoming weekend. We have the great, the 2-year-olds in the Grade 2 Kentucky Jockey Club down at Churchill Downs, and out on the West Coast, a real good turf race, the Grade 2 Seabiscuit.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Always great action, and you know, this is kind of a weird time, but you know, you get into the winter months, and you know, weather becomes an issue. You know, you're on and off the turf, so it's just kind of interesting to see how these horses, you know, are able to handle the conditions this time of year.
Speaking about on and off the turf, you're a harness guy. They do race on the grass over in Europe, don't they, as harness horses?
Yes, they do, and a lot of times they'll have 20, 25 horse fields too. So it's but you know what, I'll tell you one thing about that is they're not afraid to go 3, 4, 5 wide. Here in the American style of racing, you see, you know, the horses like to go on the pylons. They like to conserve ground quite a bit, and you know, drivers like to use a lot more finesse and make their moves. Overseas, it's anything goes. They're not afraid to go 3, 4 wide the whole race.
25 horses.
Yeah,
that's
how about that?
Let's get to our final break. We'll wrap it up with news notes. We come back after this.
What does Chapman's 7 locations and 10 car brands mean to you? It means a huge selection of quality pre-owned vehicles, all makes and models, many one-owner low mileage certified with miles of factory warranty remaining. Safety checked, meticulously detailed, and each come with a free Carfax report so you can buy with complete confidence at any Chapman Auto store near you. Or shop online anytime at ChapmanPreowned.com.
If our emblem is not on your car or truck, you probably did pay too much.
Welcome back, everyone, to Parks Racing for Let's Go Racing News and Notes. The final segment brought to you by the great folks at Pewter Stable. Log on to their website at pewterstable.com. Bruce Casella, Mike Bozich sitting in for Dick Girardi today, and of course Keith Jones. And Mike, we were all thrilled here in the United States when we had a chance to see the great filly Enable come over and win the Breeders' Cup Turf. Well, Judd Mott has announced that 2019 they're going to race her, and they're going to try to become the first 3-time ARC winner in history.
That would be unbelievable. What an unbelievable accomplishment that would be. I mean, she's already had a stellar career, fantastic career. If she would have called it quits in 2018, I don't think anybody would have blamed her, but you know what? It would be unbelievable to see if she could pull that off. That would be such a feat.
Well, Enable, we're going to get to see her in 2019, and maybe after winning the ARC for the 3rd time, maybe she can come back and win the Breeders' Cup Turf for a 2nd time.
Wouldn't that be something?
Well, Mike, thanks for coming in and sitting in for Dick Girardi. Always a pleasure to share some time with you, and always a pleasure to share time with you folks as well. We'll see you next week on Let's Go Racing.